Howdy, friends. I figure since Night of the Seven Kingdoms is coming out next year, we might as well do some prep work since it is looking like it is just going to be the book brought to screen. And since a lot of people tout it as one of George R. R. Martin's best work, it makes sense. Which does make sense considering it's a relatively simple, straightforward story that does not have any like mystery box stuff. It's just a couple of people on a journey without the wider arcing political stuff that's going on.
Not much of it anyway. There's hints of it here and there because of course the Targaryens turn up and all that, but not the and it has an actual ending too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be easier to do this than it is a Song of Ice and Fire because the World Book, at least, is complete and has pretty much the entire story in it. There's just little bits and pieces that George said, don't include that, don't include that. I want to write about it later. But problem is he's never going to finish any of the projects he has started as far as the Song of Ice and Fire goes.
Probably not. So I mean, these three stories at least are finished. The Duncan Egg stories, you can find them in a Night of the Seven Kingdoms. They're all published together in that.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good book. It might well be Graham's most consistent work.
Yeah, I think also well, the only thing we're kind of missing is I think it's the third Blackfire Rebellion, and like She-Wolves of Winterfell, and then the tragedy at Summerhall, which George has kind of let out. George, I don't think. I think that the weirdest thing about Summerhall is that the mystery of Summerhall is so bloody obvious, and has been solved in the books, and I don't think George realizes it.
Interesting. So,
because they stated pretty definitively, the only way that they can do it is that if George just does something different, because Summerhall burns because Aegon the Unlikely wants to bring back dragons.
right.
And clearly Sir Duncan the Tall rescues Rhaella Targaryen and she gives birth to Rhaegar.
Yeah, there's a theory that Aegon the Fifth was trying to do a human sacrifice to bring back the dragons. There's a theory to that effect.
Yeah, I think Preston Jacobs and Carmine have talked about that a couple times, where it's just, in order for it to be actually surprising, they need to make it super dark.
Yeah, because
everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's what we thought it was the whole time.
It was just an accident. But yeah, if it's a sacrifice, then that kind of like, how are you going to do the character arc for that? It's like Evil Danny all over again. How are you going to do the character arc that leads to that?
I know one of the things that makes him a little bit different is that there's consistent commentary throughout, I think it's the World of Ice and Fire, that he is frustrated with the nobles refuse to accept his reforms, and that if he had a dragon, they would do what he said rather than having to play the whole feudal game of alliances and stuff, especially since the major problem is his kids are morons.
Yeah, his kids are all over the place.
Yeah. Especially since the weirdest thing is, like, he's trying to push the incest thing away, It's like, no, and we're incest. Let's stop up with that. Maybe because the one of his sisters tried to give him a love potion.
This is a romantic moment in the story.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because it's just like, okay, well, he's already engaged to one sister, but the other one wants him for herself, and he's like what, 13?
Was he even? Was he even? I mean, he might have been younger than that.
Let me check.
I mean, how old was he? Is this story mentioned in the Duncan Egg stories in the Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
This is during the Hedge Knight, apparently.
Oh, so he'd only been 10. Yikes. Or 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So okay, so let's see. Oh, it's in the Sworn Sword, but yes. So, but yeah, he's not. He's kind of he's young, like super young.
Some chap is in here, I guess is the Raptor because of the icon, but I don't recognize the name. Hello there.
Yeah, it's Raptor. YouTube has kind of messed it up for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, it'll do that.
Yeah. Kind of the funny thing about it is, yeah. But we have, he is, okay, so he's born 200 AC, and the Ashford tourney,
must be 210 then.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, he's about 10, yeah. And he's 9, yeah. So she was trying to roofie him at 9.
How very romantic.
Yeah. George, as well as the part where I think it's interesting, like I think that George does a really good job of making it so that of like just how sick and twisted Aryan Bright Flame is.
Bright Flame is one of the few Targaryens who actually definitely is mad.
Yeah.
The others, it's a not so.
Like Maegor's just kind of a brutal alpha male type, who just indulges in relatively pretty cruel tendencies.
Yeah.
But he at least had a sort of non-aggression pact. He only hit back if you tried to strike at him, as seen by the fact that he didn't directly go after Aegon the Uncrowned and Rhaena. He only did something about them after they raised an army.
Okay, yeah. I guess fair enough. Even though I guess that's fair enough.
But then what he did to Viserys, the Prince Viserys, was pretty awful. Same with Alice Haraway, because of Tyanna of the Tower.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was kind of the 1-2 punch of both Aenys and Maegor were bad, but Maegor did more to hold the realm together, than Aenys did. Though he held it so tightly together that it started to crack. And then Jaehaerys was just is a good quote unquote king who held things together, but the problem is he didn't fix any of the problems. He just ruled with a more quiet tyranny than Maegor did.
Yeah, maybe he was too maybe he was too gentle, and Maegor was too harsh.
Well, I don't even know. Well, Jaehaerys,
Not
or
Jaehaerys. Aerys, not Aerys. What's his name?
Aenys.
Aenys.
Yeah, yeah. I think well, I don't know if Aenys was gentle so much as he was a chicken.
Yeah, but anyway, he was too, too soft, and Maegor was too hard.
Yeah, and then Jaehaerys was a traumatized young man who, in the end, destroyed his own dynasty with um, the Great Council, and ultimately led to the Dance of the Dragons, when he should have just named an heir and be done with it.
Yeah,
If he had just named Viserys his heir, nobody would have complained, and there would have been a status set that you can just name your heir. It would have solved a lot of problems. But,
yeah. It's not the best system, but at least it's a system.
yeah, but the main problem was after massively centralizing the power of the throne. Um, um, he then put it up to the nobility, and then that allowed the nobility to feel like they had a say, and from there the Dance of the Dragons was bound to happen.
Yeah, and maybe eventually Robert's Rebellion too.
Yeah, for sure. I think the main cracks in that one was Aerys Targaryen. Like Aerys Targaryen, Robert's Rebellion was doomed to happen, because I think we were going to get Mad King Aerys or somebody like Mad King Aerys, regardless of, but because of the Dance of the Dragons, they had no power. Aerys Targaryen with a dragon is actually a horrifying prospect.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be a riot.
I also think Aegon the Unworthy with a dragon would also be equally bad, though he likely would have been killed along with his dragon in Dorne trying to take it.
Yeah, Aegon. Yes, Aegon the Unworthy with the dragon, and trying to threaten his nobility with a dragon if they don't let him have his way with their ladies.
Yeah, that would have caused. I think that would have caused another civil war.
Yeah,
I Yeah, it would be interesting. I think that, you know what, somebody needs to do that where it's a civil war between Aemon the Dragon Knight on I don't know, Caraxes versus um Aegon the Unworthy on um mm, probably Tyraxes, I imagine. Edgen or Vermithor. I'm not sure which.
Vagar.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, he is Vagar.
I mean, yeah. I think the main crux point would probably not be Vagar's death. I think that it would probably be the change points would likely be the Stormy of the Dragon Pit and Tumbleton. Those would probably be the big change points. And or they actually figured out, oh, it's just a very fertile dragon rider Targaryen female putting the eggs in the cradles of the kids. So that seems to be the most common way of hatching dragons.
So the dragon genes theory.
Yeah, I think that I think that it's just, I don't know if it's necessarily just dragon genes. I think it's just the two big Targaryen dragon boom times are right after the conquest, when Rhaena Targaryen Rhaenys probably puts a dragon egg in Aenys's cradle, and that hatches, and then later on, her granddaughter Rhaena puts the eggs for Vormithor and Silverwing in her younger siblings' cradles, and they hatch. And then Rhaenyra puts one in all of her half siblings and all of her kids, and pretty much about 80% of them hatch. So, with only Helena and Aemon taking previously unridden dragons. So,
They got crowded.
Yeah. I did see a very interesting art where Bloodraven on the Cannibal is facing Bittersteel on Vermithor, while Shira Seastar on Silverwing being watched. And I was like, okay, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting. I do think that Bloodraven on a dragon is an equally terrifying prospect. Just by virtue of the fact that Bloodraven is a very brutal pragmatic utilitarian who does not care about lives lost, is willing to do some pretty bad things.
Very much ends justify the means type.
Very, very, very much that.
And he has magical power, so he probably would have pretty strong control over the dragons too.
That would stand to reason. Let me actually see, because I think I had it somewhere. Somewhere in here. Oh, yeah, I found it. It's actually, yeah, I found the artwork. It might be different.
Let's see.
At least I think, based on I think that that's the Cannibal, and that might not be Silverwing. But that's definitely Vermithor, because so I just think that would be really an interesting what if. Well, this actually is interesting. There's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Moon Dancer. That's interesting. It's an interesting choice.
Is Moon Dancer Helena's, or did I make that up?
Moon Dancer. So Helena's dragon is Dreamfire.
Oh, right.
Moon Dancer is Bela Targaryen's.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was one of those.
Mm-hmm. yeah, it's an interesting piece of art. I didn't have any allude. I didn't like. I just randomly saw it on Pinterest. I'm like, that's actually pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, alrighty. Well, let's watch.
I was squire to Sir Arlen of Pennytree since I was a boy. He charged me to be a good knight, to defend the weak and the innocent, and I swore that I would.
Are you Baelor Targaryen?
No.
Then would you move the fuck out of the way?
Sorry.
What's your name?
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Never heard of him.
You know every knight in the Seven Kingdoms, then?
The good ones.
Oh dear.
I like so that's obviously Egg, the future. Well, I don't know how. What do we do? Do we want to do this? Shall we just assume that everybody is what? Well, do you want to preserve the twist of who this kid is, or do we just call him Egg?
Don't know. I mean, how do you feel about spoilers and all that?
Well, let's kind of preserve it to a certain extent. We know for sure that that's Egg, and there's the theory that Dunk is lying through his teeth about being a knight.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's pretty clear in retrospect. I mean, at first you just take his word for it. He says he made me knight. Like, okay, but then later on in the story, he says he's thinking these things and saying, and like, why is he thinking that? What is he talking about? What is he talking about in that scene? What is it? And why does he not want to knight this other chap? Why does he feel so uncomfortable about knighting this other chap? Any knight can make a knight. If he's a knight, he should just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two big arguments for me. There are other points too that Preston's has raised.
Yeah, there's a lot of thematic stuff around the best knights are not actually knighted because George R. R. Martin doesn't really hold with the idea of knightly chivalry and thinks that knightly chivalry is all a joke. Or at least the appearance of knightly chivalry is a joke.
Yeah, I mean the idea that because you belong to a certain class, therefore you're going to be virtuous and wonderful and lovely. No, that's kind of nonsense. So
I would agree.
So he's pointing out that no.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I would definitely agree that I think there is something to be said though of like the ideals of knighthood, and the idea of that some people would at least try to aspire to the ideal.
Yeah, I don't think it's the ideal he's questioning so much as is it class based. I mean, he doesn't disagree with Brienne upholding those ideals. It's just that he doesn't have to be a knight to uphold those ideals. And the same in the case of Dunk. Yeah, the ideals are good.
Mm-hmm.
The ideals. But obviously, like Sir Gregor is the obvious example of someone who's a knight, and he's even knighted by Rhaegar, if I remember correctly. And
yes,
and
that is correct.
And like he's like one of the worst people in the series.
He might even be the worst person in the series.
He's pretty bad. He's pretty bad.
Yeah, he's an like Gregor Clegane is. I do think. You know what? I think Arian Brightflame might be worse, though. I think Arian Brightflame might be worse. He's at the very least way more insane. I think that Gregor has less impulse control than Arian Brightflame, considering the fact that Arian Brightflame threatened to turn his little brother into a eunuch so he could marry him. It's like
Poor Egg. At the age of 9, he's already having romantic misadventures with his siblings.
yeah, and just his brother is just the most
You could
awful.
bring me to Ashford. I could swipe you some.
Rob me, and I'll hunt you down with dogs.
You don't have dogs!
I'll get some.
Where?
Oh!
That's funny.
Just for
Boys, stop
you.
gaping. See to my horse.
I'm not a stable boy, my lord.
Not clever enough.
I
And
know I'm
there
just a
is
hedge
the most
knight, but
psychopathic.
sometimes I
kid.
think there
Yeah.
could be more.
Oh, that guy's just having a lot.
Why do you treat these royal lapdogs like they're your betters?
They are my betters.
These men have a name. I'm training. What chance do I have? I have no chance.
Falling star brings luck to those who see it.
So the luck is ours alone?
Oh, right, the puppet play.
I need to fight honorably.
Oh, no, that's the.
Sometimes I think I buried my courage alongside the old man. And in every
There's
man,
the-
there are many men. So be brave. Be just. Be tall.
It's a really good line.
Yeah, they have the. Well, they're asking a lot.
Yeah, I really like what they've done with Lionel Baratheon. He kind of looks a bit more like Stannis or Renly than Robert Clone, which is what he is in the book. And I think that's a very good change because George kind of got lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he does this thing with everyone. Everyone in the house has to be like look alike and have the same personality traits. If you're a Manderly, you have to be fat and so on.
And if you're a Stark, you're a horse-faced.
If you're a Stark, you're a horse,
That's
which proves that Tyrek is a Stark.
clearly. Overall, I do like this. I think that basically, it's going to be very much be a very different than any other A Song Ice and Fire property, because the fates of nations is not really on the line. It's more just the fate of this one guy, but because of the actions, there's going to be ripple effects through history, which I think is an interesting point to take, where even the smallest event can change the course of the future.
Yeah, because what happens with this Targaryen guy, spoiler, will affect the history because it will affect the succession.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it is interesting. I wonder if they're going to bring anything from the Blackfire rebellions and bring that up a little bit more, because it is funny how much the Blackfire rebellions are kind of a retcon. Same with the Dance of the Dragons.
Well, the Dance of the Dragons was totally retconned from the appendix in Game of Thrones. It becomes a totally different thing, and the Blackfire Rebellions, I suspect, did not exist when he was writing the Hedge Knight.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing, since the Blackfire Rebellions are what's going to be hanging over the proceedings, and I'm interested to see who's playing Bloodraven, if they even decide to do Bloodraven, because Bloodraven, I think, is one of my favorite A Song of Ice and Fire characters. Mainly because he's a giant mix. Admittedly, he's a giant mystery box, especially in the books. With the three-eyed raven that's never going to be resolved.
Yeah, like, is he the three-eyed raven or is he not the three-eyed raven?
I think the theory is that he is not the three-eyed raven and that it's someone else south of the wall, maybe somebody at the Isle of Faces.
Maybe it's time-traveling Bran.
That is actually another theory where it's like past Bran visiting current Bran. But that's the funny thing, George. Seems like he's completely lost the plot.
Yeah, he's lost the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
then we have. There's the teaser. Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say, that's the first trailer. There's also a second trailer.
Mm-hmm. I have that pulled up. Here we see the trial by 7, since there's going to be a bit of a tussle, and because...
Yeah, you can recognize the one that's Lionel Baralton, but you can't recognize the others necessarily.
Yeah, there is one that I can recognize, but mainly because he's got black armor on a black horse. Literally, we have it's kind of a secret who it is. It's a big surprise.
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Oh, that's a cool scene.
How good a night are you?
I'll see.
We're seeing everything through his visor. We're going to his point of view.
I guess.
Yeah, so you're seeing it through his visor, like you're him. That's an interesting fact.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually really clever.
Came for the tourney?
Journey is a contest for knights. You a knight?
I'm no farmer.
Yeah, you've come dressed as one.
Sir,
Yeah, they're very much leading into he's not a knight. He's a fake.
Yeah.
I could scribe you. And you could teach me. Every knight needs a squire. And you look like you need one more than most.
Yes.
This kid's he's kind of got that good mix of cutesy, but also he's clearly like got an edge on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Egg is a clever kid.
Raised me to be a true knight, not with sword or lance, but with honor. And I swore that I would.
What's this? It's a hedge knight, ain't it? What? It's like a knight, but sadder.
Who the bleep are they?
If I could call myself a champion, some great house might take me into its service. Perhaps even House Targaryen.
Targaryens, they're incestuous aliens.
What? Who says that?
Sir Duncan the Tall.
They're Targaryens, they're
I don't know. Nobody knows who that Ed is. The theory is that he's a Blackfire supporter, because that's kind of the idea is that the Blackfires are not incest driven like the Targaryens are.
Hmm. I think they're the raven calling the crow black or whatever.
Maybe.
I think because I mean they're from the same family,
They
basically.
are, they are, but they've kind of stopped. They've kind of stopped with the after they've kind of stopped with the incest. Like I'm not aware of any of the Blackfires practicing incest. Um, Admittedly, we don't have very much information about that, but we do know that the line dies out in the male line at least, since that's the big smoking gun that Aegon is Fagon. There's kind of differing arguments for. I think Hills Alive remarked that it's actually better for the story if Aegon is the true heir to the Iron Throne, and that would be a much better story if Jon and Dany have to fight against the true heir to the Iron Throne. The problem is there's a lot of foreshadowing for Aegon being a Blackfire throughout the story, and to have him not be a Blackfire, I think is just, and have him be the actual King Aegon that somehow got saved, um, just kind of makes the story not make sense.
Yeah, there's also a theory that he's descended from Aerion Brightflame.
That's also a good point.
There's also that theory.
Since as I recall, like Aerion Brightflame's been brought up since book one, and there was originally going to be the Bright Flame versus Targaryen rivalry, but George decided to scrap that in favor of the Blackfires instead.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things where I think one of the things that I do want to do with the post, as there was Crimson Scorpio was talking about how we should probably do like a post mortem for A Song of Ice and Fire where we just talk about like the books, since as I've been watching Preston Jacobs read through of the whole of the first book, it's like George is just kind of making this up as he goes along. He doesn't have a plan. He just mystery boxes a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Preston used to be very heavily into this thing doesn't make sense. There must be some deep mystery, but that nowadays he's more like, yeah, maybe, probably not. Probably he just, didn't know what he was doing, or was just winging it, or.
And I think that based on his read through of the Game of Thrones, that the theory that George is kind of winging it or mystery boxing it kind of has a lot of weight to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Tolkien was also winging it, very much winging it in The Lord of the Rings when he first started it. But then he went back and he employed discipline and he edited it, and he found something that he could use as a unifying thing to create a unified story, and he succeeded.
And I think that he also, I don't know if George has a writers group or not. I don't think he does. But Tolkien shared his stuff with the Inklings to get feedback.
Yeah.
And I don't think that George does that. I think that George has an editor, but he doesn't. But I think that he's in a bit of a J.K. Rowling situation where editors are not really going to tell him to change much due to the fact that he's a massively successful author. It's one of the reasons why Feast and Dance are massive, but a lot of stuff like Victorian Greyjoy could be cut.
You could probably cut the entire Dorm plot and just do it and have people allude to it.
Yeah. And it's mainly just he's kind of like, well, it's kind of the literary version of George Lucas, where if you read the original draft of Phantom Menace, it's actually significantly tighter as a story than the final film, which is really bloated and doesn't have characterization time, and he just keeps. And the problem is, George, the way that he gets around his writer's block is he just makes new characters and he makes new plots. Because of that, it spirals out. He's not able to conclude plots anymore, it seems.
Yeah, unfortunately. Does seem that way.
Yeah. And another problem, and I think you are right that it probably would be better to just cut Doran, because Doran Martell doesn't make any sense. He's either this genius apex level schemer who's also an idiot.
Doesn't seem to like his kids. He doesn't seem to like his kids very much. Hey, I'll send you off on this wild goose chase, and Asa, I'll send you. I'll send you after the army who's fighting a civil war. He's trying to fight a civil war. I think that'll be the way to go.
Yeah, and they're kind of, and because of that, she's. I think the whole thing with Ariane, like if we go with the track that George seems to be laying down, Ariane is totally going to get Fagon in the sack with her, and because he's a stupid kid, he's going to marry her, and it's going to be part of his Rhaegar cosplay, as Lightbringer brings up, that he's going to have a Dane of Starfall as his Sword of the Morning for Arthur Dane, and he's going to have a Dornish princess as his wife, but that's going to create problems when Daenerys comes in. So, because now he's not open for it, or being married, it's also going to create a wedge with the Tyrells, because they don't like the Dornish.
Yeah, there is that. There is that part of it too.
Mm-hmm. But we're never going to find out. Ever. Sorry for the tangent. It's just got a lot of thoughts about A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
It was aliens and tyrants.
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Arion would like your head.
Ominous music.
This is what I deserve.
Come on, little knight.
And so, I ask you again, how good a knight are you?
And there's the theme.
You may be wise to run.
Won't they kill me if I run?
Want to kill you anyway.
As honor deserted the noble houses of Westeros, and there are no true knights among you.
Get hype.
Was that ill-handled?
Right, yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that in the actual thing. I think they're doing that for the trailer. But if they actually do that with Dunk's "Are there new true knights among you?" speech, and they do like bring in like a bit of bathos in there, I would be like, oh, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, there would be a bit of a tonal whiplash thing going on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be for something else. There are lots of other situations where you could bring that up.
Yeah, because I think that it's you don't want to do it in a dramatic moment like that, and especially I'm very excited to see the Duncan the Tall's speech to the assembled knights. The thing that's nice about the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms as opposed to the House of the Dragon is because Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a very straightforward narrative, and it looks like they're just doing the book. There might be a little bit of embellishment, like where they've made the this puppet show kind of insane.
Yeah, it's not just this puppet lady who's really good at making puppets and handling them anymore. It's like a huge big. It's basically HBO. It's basically medieval HBO at this point.
Yeah, it's this giant puppet show,
It's
and like with a dragon and a flamethrower.
it's
And
it's
I'm interested to see how they handle the setup where Arian breaks Tansel Too Tall's fingers, and then Duck
Fingers.
hits him.
Yeah, and beats him up, roughs him up, and knocks his teeth out, and knocks him on the floor, and twists his dagger out of his hand. And the picture is pretty brutal in the book.
Yeah, I think they're Duck hits Arian.
Gary Johnny.
The interesting thing is, um, I'm intrigued to see what exactly, since they've clearly like made this, done a lot of coding where Arian looks like very Joffrey-esque. He's just a slightly more martial-looking Joffrey, but he's fundamentally the same type of person as Joffrey in a lot of ways.
Tiny bit older, and even more naughty. But yeah,
He's more creative in his evil than Joffrey is.
yeah. Joffrey has no imagination.
Yeah, he basically just says shoot people.
Shoot people and beat up the lady.
Mm-hmm. Whereas Arian Brightfem is like, oh, I'm just gonna castrate my little brother and taunt him with the idea that I'm gonna turn him into a sister so I can marry him. It's like, as well as other dishonorable acts that he commits later during the Blackfire, I think the third Blackfire Rebellion, where he murders somebody.
He also drowned the cat.
That too. It just seems like in general, poor little Aegon the Unlikely's family sucks. Other than his dad, who just seems like he's kind of just a dumb as a stump Stannis type, whose just life is miserable now that his wife is dead.
Yeah, his brother, his elder brother, one of his elder brothers is a drunk, although he's a nice drunk.
Unlike Robert, who's he's a marital rapist and kind of a jackass in a lot of ways. I like Bobby B, but he's got a lot of big character flaws.
Yeah, not a role model by any manner of means. Don't do this at home, chaps.
Yeah. I also think you would probably have to be super rich in order to pull off what Bobby B does at the fatness that Bobby B gets.
Yeah, you would have to be. Well, obviously, yes.
Because one, you're colossally overweight from years of drinking. Two, you got to be rich to slake the Hugh Hefner levels of sex addiction.
Yeah. Those brothels don't come cheap.
Yep.
So there's also another. Oh, we did see another trail. We saw that one with Baylor and other. We did see that one. Don't mind me.
And we do see Baylor Breakspear, and I think that it is interesting. He actually looks very similar to, other than the beard, he pretty much looks exactly like he does in the illustrations of the Hedge Knight book, or the graphic novel. And I'm very interested to see, because Baelor Breakspear is kind of the best of the Targaryens.
Yeah.
And it's tragic because if he wasn't as good of a person, he wouldn't have died. But equally, the Targaryen line would have been very different.
Yeah, who knows? If it had been, Valar is kind of a question mark in terms of his character.
He's kind of a blank slate in many ways. He doesn't have one.
Yeah, he's not a great tourney knight. He only fights people who are helplessly worse than he is, and he's not very nice to Dunk, but his father had just died defending Dunk, so I don't know if that if it's fair to use that as a judge of his character.
I honestly think that makes I think that that's probably not indicative, considering he's in a heightened state of emotion, considering that if Dunk had actually handled it in a smart way and sent Aegon to grab Baelor, as Baelor puts it, then yeah. It also is interesting because it would have been redemption for Baelor the Blessed and his horrible misrule of the kingdom.
Baelor the Blessed was a nice chap, though. Well, apart from the sisters.
He was very nice. He was also insanely stupid. Mainly after he got bit by one too many snakes. Snakes down a door. And
blame the snakes, then.
Yeah. It clearly addled his mind and yellowed his teeth.
The adders addled him.
Clearly. Yeah, that was... It could also be that he's also a participant of burnings, which I'm like, dude, no. He's kind of the example of, don't put a religious fanatic on the throne, ever.
Yeah, he did get a bit carried away with the book burning, all right.
Yeah, especially stuff like the Septon Barth's books, which I think was like, dude. Oh, that's terrible. This is an interesting thought experiment. Daron the
Daron the Drunken is king?
Not Daron the Drunken, Daron the First. As with a dragon.
Oh, okay. Is he the chap who fought? He's the chap who invaded Dorne, then.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be interested. He probably would not have. I think it still would have failed, but I think that he probably would not have had as much of a. I don't think that he would have died at a parlay with a dragon. Yeah. If the young dragon had a dragon of his own, that would have been pretty interesting to happen. It would have been an interesting what if. Honestly, like at this point, it's just the Song of Ice and Fire universe has kind of been so well trodden that the only thing that are interesting are what ifs, at least to me, and some finding niche theories about what the origin of the White Walkers are.
Yeah, you can still do like analysis of characters, themes, and motifs, and stuff like that. That's still a valid area. You can still study them in that sense. But in terms of theories and what's going to come in Winds of Winter, the answer is probably nothing.
Yeah.
We might get, he has completed 75%, or is it 70%? I think he said 75%, then he said 70%. So anyway, there is a fair bit that he has completed that we could still get eventually. Even if he never does finish, we could still get some of that stuff, assuming he lets he lets lets those things be published at some point after his death or whenever, assuming he allows it.
It would be interesting since isn't his wife's name is Frances, right? At least I think it is.
Wasn't it? Didn't it begin with a P? Isn't it like Paris? Isn't that her name?
Paris. Yeah, Paris. Whoops. Yeah, her name's Paris McBride. I'd be interested if there's a similar situation where Paris finds an author that fits George's style, and shifts it. I know Joe Abercrombie has said no, even though he's kind of the house favorite to finish it.
Yeah.
Even he said no publicly he said, I don't I'm not interested in playing in somebody else's sandbox. I prefer to make my own.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think there's other people like some guy named Gwen.
There was that chap who said no, who was one of his minions or something. Who said no. So there were a couple of them, I think, who said no. A couple of his minions or something.
Yeah. There's a guy named John Gwynn who also has been suggested as a good option, but I don't know if he said yes or no. I'd be interested to see.
Yeah. And the elephant in the room is that Brando Sando also said no, but in addition to that, would not be appropriate. He wouldn't really be a good fit for that.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah. One, he's a very different kind of writer. He seems to have a very, very keen plan. And the fact that George R. R. Martin famously does not have a plan and has strayed off his original outline considerably, and is only vaguely trying to get back onto it, would make things very difficult for Sanderson, especially since it was very difficult to do Wheel of Time, even with large reams of notes from the original author. There's also just a massive incompatibility of styles and content.
Well, Brando Sando is not his prose style is not his strong point. Could he imitate? Because say what you will about Gurm, his prose style is excellent, like probably among the best today.
Agreed.
So can Brando do it?
The problem is his prose kind of gets away with him in certain chapters where he just kind of Phil is just kind of doing filler writing, like when he's like in the Catelyn chapter with the Eyrie or in Tyrion.
Yeah, but at least it's filler that's beautiful. At least it's beautiful filler.
Yeah.
Imagine Brandon Sanderson writing a song of Ice and Fire, says hoo-ha, says Raptor.
Yeah, it would be kind of a disaster. And
yeah.
I don't think that it would be good. I think that it would be, you need somebody who is, sad to say this, a little bit cleverer than Brandon in order to make a lot of the political scheming work, as well as the fact that he'd have to do a lot of retconning of the economics in order to make that work.
Yeah.
Because George's economics, especially in Game of Thrones, do not make sense, and then from there do not make sense for the rest of the books.
So his tech policy. So
Yeah, for all his comments about what's Aragorn's tax policy, you don't even know what Robert's tax policy is.
Yeah.
And it's just like the way that he fixes it is Littlefinger is embezzling a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, well, that seems not unreasonable. Seems like
Well, it's just how there was an interesting theory where basically Littlefinger is melting the coins down and watering them down in a fan fiction. But admittedly, this fan fiction probably didn't take into account the fact Littlefinger's scheming in the Vale, or just kind of a lot of Littlefinger's character traits. Because basically, he's been working with the Iron Throne to just water down the coins, just take pure coins from Essos and then melt them down and make up the weight with lesser materials.
yeah, that was a common, not uncommon medieval practice. They called it debasing the coinage.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
that's
I think he's just outright stealing it. He's probably just outright stealing it.
Yeah, probably. Just
so how I wonder how, and he's kind of like doing it, and he's kind of funneling it through multiple fake employees, like the jailers. This is interesting. Do you think that Varys and Littlefinger are working together, or do you think that is a dropped plot?
Yeah, I don't think. I don't think they're working together. As maybe they were working together in that chapter of Catelyn from the Game of Thrones. Maybe they were working together at that point, but afterwards, I don't think so. I don't think so.
So there's actually an interesting video that actually went through all of Varys's and Littlefinger's interactions and actually came to the conclusion that Littlefinger actually seems to have a lot of Varys love information, such as the secret passages of the Red Keep, and that in a lot of ways, Littlefinger and Varys's goals are actually very much aligned.
Well, both
of them want chaos for the realm.
They both want chaos, but perhaps for different purposes.
Well, Littlefinger just loves Littlefinger, but they both are trying to create a war between the Starks and Lannisters. And it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of interesting that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Varys is kind of that they're kind of handling they're kind of part of a joint operation, and they're handling things on the same operation from different parts of the continent.
Yeah, I suspect that they have similar goals in the short term, but not in the long term. They both want chaos, but for different reasons. That's my general feeling based on like the later part of the books. But in the earlier part of the books, in A Game of Thrones, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Probably, maybe even Grim didn't know. Probably not.
Yeah, and especially since Littlefinger is never contradicted by Varys. There's also the implication that Varys was one of the people that Varys helped with the death of Jon Arryn, as per his conversation with Illyrio. And the only way he could know that was with if he, and especially since he knows exactly the poison that was used, implies that he was working with Littlefinger to kill Jon Arryn to create, as well as the fact that he knew about the cat's paw and is working very much in concert with Littlefinger in quite a few ways.
Yeah, I think the evidence is probably stronger if you stick to a Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, yeah, maybe at that point that was the idea. Maybe later on, when he came up with the Aegon plot, or did he come up with the Aegon plot earlier? Because he doesn't turn up until like the 5th book. Yeah,
Yes.
he doesn't turn up until the 5th book. I guess there are things in Game of Thrones that might refer to him. The whole his father's son thing. Whose father's son?
Yeah. There's also kind of like most of what comes out of Varys's mouth is a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in private, where like even to Kevin, he's kind of messing with him in a way. Most of what he's saying about young Griff is not true.
Well, or at least, all that stuff about he's being taught to believe that it's his duty. Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't know. He seems sort of entitled. He doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like Tommen is more entitled than in his attitude than Aegon is.
And I don't think that Aegon is particularly like nose to the ground. I don't think he actually understands. He seems like he's had a very sheltered life. I don't think that he's had to do much like Dany did.
No, I mean he did get a nice thorough education. I'll give him that.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I mean he didn't get sold to the calls and have to like kind of rise from that and then have to free all the slaves and all that stuff.
Kind of got the Blackfire's ancestral army just handed to him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the big things. It's just like, oh, some contracts written in ink, some in blood. That's like, as well as the black dragon, that Aegon thing that had rust on it, red rust on it, but it was still a black dragon.
Yeah.
Aegon sign. It's like, yeah, he's totally a Blackfire. He's fake. Yeah. But it's just kind of, I'd be interested to, I'd like to ask George, are Varys and Littlefinger meant to be allies and working together, or was that something you changed your mind on?
Yeah. Good question. Good question, because it sort of does seem like it in that chapter with Kat. It does sort of seem like it, but then later on, they're doing their own thing.
Yeah, but they're not really at cross purposes, which is interesting. They're kind of just doing the same things. And I don't think that Varys's goals don't necessarily align with Littlefinger's, long-term or otherwise. I think he just, based on what I can see, he can easily fold in Littlefinger's goals and obsessions into his own without any problems.
Well, if Varys succeeded in Aegon sat on the Iron Throne, then Littlefinger would find a way to be useful to Aegon.
Mm-hmm. Could basically rub his hands and go, poof, mountains of gold.
Yeah, he would be, yeah, because if he will do whatever's beneficial to him, and if Aegon takes over the throne, then he'll be just as happy to help Aegon as he was to help Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. That would be my guess on that. So they don't not necessarily against each other. It depends on well, depends on what happens.
I'd honestly, I kind of want to, at this point, take a look at Preston Jacobs fanfic, wherever that's at.
I think that's available online. I mean, it's. I think that's available somewhere. I mean, I can ask and see if there's a website. I think there might be a website for it, but if not, you'll just have to listen to. There's probably a playlist, and you can just listen to all of them sequentially.
Let me see. Okay, it's an audiobook. Quite a bit of it.
Huh? You're breaking up a bit?
Sorry. He's got audio versions on his channel, so
Yeah.
it looks like Archive of Our Own.
Yeah, there might be the written versions are probably some. I think the written versions are somewhere too, but I don't know where.
Well, that's why I said Archive of Our Own. That's where the written version is.
You mean there's a website called that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Archive. Yeah, it's weird. People will often call it AO3 for brevity purposes.
Okay, archive. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be interested to kind of. One thing I would be interested, since you as the resident Asai of Ice and Fire expert, I'd be kind of interested to kind of take a look at some critique the writing for some fan fiction theories, especially the ones that have very diverging paths at Robert's Rebellion, because they fundamentally change large sections of the story, and it's a little bit more interesting than than some of the personality changes, like some of the what if Ned Stark made different choices deal, or I think stuff like what if Cersei and Jaime were never lovers. That's an interesting one. Same with what if Jaime, the several series where Jaime gets executed, gets sent to the wall, or never became heir. Those ones have surprisingly interesting ripple effects on the timeline. So I'd be interested to take a look at those at some point. I know he's kind of redoing. He's pretty prolific. I'm very surprised that he puts out like hour-long fan fiction videos every other week, or well, actually no, every other day.
Every other day, yeah, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, maybe like every 2-3 days, depending. Sometimes he'll do 2-parters and say, "Hey, if this gets enough likes, we'll do a part 2." And I'm like, "Fair play to you." And then for convenience sake, he put out a edited together mega version where it's the 2 parts into one video, which is like, okay, that's convenient. Okay, that's good. Okay, well done. That's actually smart.
Yeah.
Well, let's call it good there. I'm not sure what we'll do next week. Maybe we'll try for another writer showcase. If not, we can. No, I actually would like to kind of discuss a Three-Eyed Theorist video and kind of like take a look at like, okay, this, like the writings and the stuff about it. And
You mean do a reaction thing where we're playing bits of his video and saying and reacting to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want to do a, since they're relatively short, they're only like at most 2 hours. And then but that's an exception.
That's kind of long, actually, because during the week I'm not listening to very much except at dinner time.
Yeah, so this is the Three-Eyed Theorist YouTube channel. Like a lot of them are more along the lines of like like 40-ish minutes. Sometimes we go up to 30. It's actually very soothing.
Soothing.
This one actually I was like very surprised that this actually is pretty good, because actually Joffrey goes through a character arc.
Joffrey goes through a character arc. That's nice.
Yeah. And
what if Joffrey was fostered in the north with Ned Stark? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Robert paces the floor nervously, rubbing his temples as he's tempted to take another swig of his wine. But for once,
really
he tries
to kind of speed it up a little bit by putting it at 1.5 speed, since he speaks relatively slow. Yeah, I'd be interested. We could even just kind of discuss like one or two. Like, we just watch the theories on our own time and just not even react to it. We could just kind of discuss it and talk about like what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah, we could do a reaction thing, and then we'd kill two birds with one stone.
True. Yeah, whichever works is more convenient. Okay, well, I think that we've sufficiently covered it, and many other interesting topics related to A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
All right. See you people later. Bye.
Have a riot. Don't die horribly.